Here's another fun spring painting I like to teach this time of year. Take a mop brush with some yellow and white, and instead of doing back and forth strokes, I'm going to do a curved stroke, almost like a wide rainbow, going up the canvas. Then I'm going to grab a clean mop brush and have some light blue and white. I'm going to overlap just a little bit with the yellow, but then go all the way up to the top. This is our sky, like a rising sun. Now see that line there where the blue and yellow meet? Blend that, but be careful not to go down too far because you don't want your yellow to turn green. I'm even going to take a little bit of orange to give it a little bit more of a sunset-y glow and blend that all in there before it dries. Perfect. Okay, dry that and then grab another clean mop brush. I'm going to take some dark green and some brown just to give it an earthy tone. Then I'm going to do back and forth strokes overlapping with that yellow curve and go back and forth all the way to the bottom of my canvas. There, now we have a rising sun. Now grab a fan brush and I'm going to take some light green now and all over this dark green layer at the bottom, do upward strokes. I'm holding it the wide direction horizontally. And I like to start adding some dark green in with my light green as I get towards the bottom. So it looks like the sun is shining on the back half, and then there's a little bit more shadow towards the front. Don't make it too dark though. I like to go back and forth with the dark and light green. Doesn't that look like grass? I love that. This is my favorite method to paint grass. And then dry that and grab a size 9 round brush. Just a large round brush with some dark brown. Let's paint a tree. I'm going to make the trunk a little bit thicker than we usually do because I want to add some texture today. And I'm going to add some simple branches. This one branch is going to go all the way across. See how that curves all the way over? Because I want to add a wooden swing. Did you have a wooden swing growing up? I didn't, but I always wanted one. Pull a couple branches going off the picture. Notice those V's. They're branching off, so you see a little V coming off of that. And then I'm going to take some black while it's here and add a little owl hole, just for something different. There we go. Now grab a smaller round brush and some tan. Instead of blending in our highlights really smooth like we usually do, I'm going to do wavy stripes going up my trunk and then out through the branches. So almost alternating between dark and light. Have you ever seen the trees that have big grooves in the bark? That's what we're going for. Don't forget to add a little bit of the back of the tree behind that hole. You can fix it up a little bit so it's big enough to hold an animal if an owl or something wants to make it its home. And then make sure the highlights go through the big long branches as well. So it's almost like you're giving it stripes, but it's blended just a little bit to give the tree trunk a little bit of a different texture. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker here. You can clean up your lines and even brighten some areas. Like I really want to make it bright around that hole so it sticks out. And also I like to highlight the roots. See how I brought little lines coming down, fanning out into the grass? That makes it look like the tree is holding on tight. Let's do a little bit of a shading right back there and fix up the hole a little bit. Perfect. However you want to do it, you can really have fun with this. It reminds me of the tree from Pocahontas. Remember there was a face sticking out talking to her? That's what this reminds me of. It's just a different style tree. So once you have your tree trunk in there, grab a fine C sponge and I'm going to do dark and light green bounces all the way across the top of my picture. Make sure your trunk is dry before you do this. I'm going to just keep bouncing, make sure it goes all the way across, pretty thick at the top, and then I like to bounce down little sections that are hanging. Make sure you leave a little space for your swing, and don't lose your branches completely. See how I'm keeping it a little bit see-through so I can see my branches, but I'm doing different lengths of the leaves that are hanging down. They're hanging down from the weight of gravity. Then I like to go back in with just dark green and make it really dark and thick towards the top because that's where most of the leaves would be. Now let's start the wooden swing. I'm going to take a size 8 flat brush, figure out where my swing is hanging from, and just do one brush stroke thick of dark brown paint. Don't make it too wide, but wide enough to sit on. And I like to tilt each of my sides slightly to the left for a little perspective. Now before it dries, I also like to take some tan and just do a couple strokes to make it look like wood grain. You can wait for it to dry a little bit and then really brighten it up in certain areas. This can also make it look more three-dimensional. To really make it look three-dimensional though, I'm going to take some dark brown and black on a detail brush and just outline the left side and the front side of it. That's going to give it a front and a side. Now, taking some tan on my detail brush, I'm going to connect the swing to the branch. Now, always start from the swing and pull up and over the branch. See what I did there? I've had people start from the branch and try to go down to the swing and totally miss it. So I'm just telling you now, start from the swing and pull up and over. See how I have a curve at the top of each of them? That just makes it look like it's curving over the branch. And then I take some dark brown and add a little bit of shading to the rope as well. There we go. Now this is optional, but I've seen so many different versions of swing paintings where they have vines going up the rope. So I like just to do a wavy line going back and forth, curving around the rope. I'm using dark green for this, going all the way up to the top. And then if you want it to look like there's a second one, you can do little curves in between each of those on the opposite sides. They're alternating. You don't have to completely cross over the rope every time. You could even add little curves to make it look like curlicues. I've seen some people get really detailed with this. And to make it look like spring, you can't forget flowers. So let's see, I had someone the other day do red and orange and it gave it a tropical feel. I'm almost ready for summer here, even though I know we're still in spring. I'm gonna do just a couple little dots of red. I even like to add little dots of white in each of them. Super simple flower. See, I'm gonna take some orange now. Notice how I'm just doing them in clusters. I'm not spacing them out perfectly evenly. I like to even add some flowers throughout the grass a little bit. Remember, less is more sometimes, so don't go too overboard, but I always like to add color in as many places as I can. Don't forget pops of white and do as many colors as you want. Now, I'm also going to take my detail brush with a little bit of dark green and just tap in little leaves. You don't have to do too much detail. I'm just tapping my brush where I think a leaf would be. You can add some light green highlights to the vines. And I'm even going to take my detail brush and add even more grass, just individual grasses to hide maybe the ends of the roots of your trees. Sometimes those look a little funny if you don't plant those with grass around it. And you can add even more grass in the field anywhere you think you might need texture. I'm liking this painting so far. One thing you can do is if your swing looks like it's falling forward, see how mine's a little bit facing forward? You can take a little bit of the dark brown and add shading towards the back of it and then highlight towards the front. Sometimes that will make it look like it's flat. You can also thicken the dark lines that line the front and the side of it. See how I made mine a little bit thicker? And really, you could stop here, but I'm going to try another texture of flower with an artist sponge. I just tapped in some white at the bottom. That was a little bit too much, so I added a couple grasses in front of those to just make it a little bit less bright. And then I took my round brush. This is also optional, but I'm taking some light green and I'm just doing individual dots towards the bottom of my leaves where the leaves would be a little bit bigger. This just adds a slightly different texture to your tree. And last step, I'm gonna take a little bit of highlight with tan and white and just do a little bit in the middle of this front section and side of the swing so it's not too dark, so it looks like one piece of wood. And there we go. This painting is so much fun to paint this time of year. I always call it swing into spring. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, follow me for more on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you try it, I would love to see how it turns out. Have fun and happy painting.